Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Ready? Set. Go. Just got to make sure that you know that land transfer tax is, I'm going to use a different highlighter maybe for the one-time cost. You only pay that once. Insurance, you pay all the time. Land transfer tax is a one-time deal. Okay? You pay this tax to the Manitoba Land Titles Office at the time the title of your home is registered, right? The title of your home is registered. But I like the name more. The name says it all. You're transferring the ownership from the previous owner to your name, right? Legally. The government sees it now as your property, right? Land transfer tax is paid when the owner of a property changes, right? Then the Manitoba government collects this as revenue, and the lawyer hired to do the transaction will ensure that the money gets transferred properly. Home buyers have to be aware of this cost as this is a one-time large cost. You can from now on say that this is a disadvantage of buying a home because it's a large one-time. It's sometimes as big as your down payment. Depends on the value of the home. The first $200,000 of the value of the house is taxed according to a scale, and then any amount over $200,000 is taxed 2%. This is your scale. Okay, so make sure you write these decimals down because I get a lot of mistakes here. So the first $30,000 of your property gets taxed nothing, 0%. So obviously it's just going to be 0, right? Our decimal. The next $60,000, meaning if your value of the home is anywhere between 30 and 90, right, gets taxed 0.5%. If you divide that by 100, that is the equivalent of this. You got to make sure you get the zeros right. Okay. The next $60,000 of your property gets taxed 1%, and that amounts to this. Okay. I would have the decimals down on my study sheet. On the next 50,000, it's 1.5%, which is 0.015. And any amount in excess of 200,000, which is pretty much 80% of our houses in Winnipeg, I would say. This is province-wide though, anywhere. It could be rural Manitoba, in the city, it doesn't matter, the government charges this. 2% is just 0.02. So anything over 200,000 gets taxed 2%. So this table is definitely dated. The government should update this. No doubt about that. But this is still exactly how you're going to be charged, okay? They go by this scale here. And here's another visual here. So if your house is anywhere between 0 and 30,000, you pay 0. If it goes past, right? So 30 plus 60, that'll be $90,000. You'll be paying 0.5% on the 60,000 here, 1% on the next 60,000, 1.5% for the next 50,000, and then it's 2% for anything over 200,000. Write this down here real quick. I made a note for myself because this is what throws students off all the time. LTT is based on the purchase price. Exclamation mark. Underline. So let's say, example, let's say you buy your home for 300 grand. Let's say you have a down payment of 50,000. Lucky you, right? You worked hard for that. You're going to work hard for anything in life, by the way. So if you're like, oh my goodness, it's so expensive, just work for it. Work for it. Work hard. Save. Your mortgage, right? 300,000, take away 50,000. Your mortgage, the amount you need to borrow is 250,000. Payment based on this but land transfer tax based on this. So because I'm going to give you questions where I mix everything up. So I'll say, hey, you buy a house, you have a $50,000 down payment, what's the monthly payment? You would know what to do. You go, hey, take away the down payment. You use this to figure out the payment. Whereas if I ask you to find the land transfer tax, the government goes based on what you actually paid for the house. Okay, they're milking it, right? Like, which, why not if you can, right? So, and here's my formula for you. This works every single time. Have a calculator ready to go here because I want you to follow. We're going to do our first example here. Calculate the land transfer tax. This is what we call LTT, right? For the purchase of a house worth $385,000. This is exactly how much you would pay, guys. This is not made up. Insurance is roughly what you pay. This is exactly how much you pay. So you ready? You're gonna be like, what? So here we go. This is how I do it. I take the amount, 385, and I go through these numbers here on the table up here. So I'm going to go like this, minus 30,000. Okay, you pay $0 on it. So don't just put a 0 next to it. Then next, if you follow this, you'll get it right every time. So take away 30,000 from 385, that leaves you with 355,000, correct? What is the next amount that we're going to tax? 60K, 60,000. So I'm going to go minus 60,000. Okay. How much do I pay on that? What's associated with this bracket here? 0.5%. So you go times 0.005. Leave it. Don't do anything with it just yet. Just make sure that's written down. Subtract it. So 355 minus 60,000. Mental math, anyone? 295, right? We can still subtract, right? So the next value on our chart is another 60,000, which is taxed 1%. Take away 60,000, and we go times 0.01. Subtract that, you're left with 235,000. You can still subtract, correct? What's the next value on our chart up here? We went through it, 30, 60, 60. There's 50,000 left to subtract. And how much do we pay on that 50,000? 1.5%. So you go times 0.015. Subtract that. 235 minus 50, that's 185,000. There's nothing left to subtract, correct? You went through the 30, 60, 60, 50. So what you do is you just take this 2% and just multiply it like that. I'm going to use 3 different highlighters so you know where I got these numbers from. Because right now you may have followed. So orange for the first, green for the next one. That's what I use. You use whatever works for you. Oh, I need 4 highlighters. Never mind. 60,000. I'm going to use the regular one I use for all the other ones. The 50K showed up here. So just to reiterate, I'm not going to multiply 30,000 by 0 because I know it's 0. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So grab your calculator. Some of these numbers you're going to remember after this. Sorry, see, that's a mistake right there. I'm off. So if I did that, you pay $3,000 for the 60,000. That's wrong. So I'm going to go back to my calculator and make sure it has 005. So it's $300 that I would pay for that chunk. Then I take 60,000 again and multiply it by 0.01, $600. You max that out. You take the 50,000, you multiply that by 0.015. That's 750. This is the one that's going to be the most expensive. Anytime you go over the $200,000, you pay 0.02, which is 2%. Look at that, 3,700. You're not wrong. That is what it is. So we charged for the first 200 grand. We pay this. And then when whatever over, you pay the 3,700. So land transfer tax is 0 plus 300 plus 600 plus 750 plus 3,700 in this case. So 50 plus 3,700, 5,350. That is how much you would have to pay for you to own this property. This is above and beyond your down payment. All right, this is above and beyond your down payment, and you cannot get out of this. You're stuck with it. You can probably, I don't know if you can add it to your mortgage. I don't know if your bank would allow you to do that. But that's why I'm going to say it's 5% plus 2 to 3%. So technically save up 8% to make that purchase. Ideally 10% because then you have extra money for anything else that needs to happen, right? So $5,350. Ouch, right? Nobody tells you this until you're ready to buy, right? Okay. One more example, because this is when it goes over 200K, right? Let's go to page 62 real quick. We'll do example 2 and that's it for today. Just make sure you follow because it's a little different. Go ahead. Do you notice anything about this number? How much is this house worth? 135. You might laugh at this, but my brother-in-law, he bought a house that is in rural Manitoba, probably 3-hour drive, but he bought a house for $120,000 last year. That's why you don't swear while you talk. Just talk normal. You don't need swears. There we go, 135. So here we go, 135 minus 30,000. Can I just, you know what? If you just remember 30, 60, 60, 50. Those are the numbers 30K, 60K, 60K, 50K, right? So take away 30,000, you pay $0 on that. So you're left with 105,000. This is a little different, so pay attention. Take away 60,000. Don't do the math just yet. You're left with 45,000. Here is the kicker. Here's the kicker. Ready? So 30, 60, right? I use this. I use this. Can you subtract 60,000 from this? The answer is no, you can't. So you just take this amount that's left over and multiply it by the percentage that would be allocated to this. Watch. Be 0.005 and then 0.01, right? So in this case, you just multiply this by 0.01, and I will make a note there. I will just tell you that this is $450. This is $300. I will make a note here. Note, can't subtract by 60,000, right? So in that case, just multiply by whatever that bracket was. So land transfer tax would be 300 plus 450. So my brother-in-law is probably laughing at me, right? I am in the city paying thousands for land transfer tax. He paid probably less, well, obviously less than 750. This one? 60,000 times 0.005 is 300, sorry. And then 45,000, you can no longer subtract. You multiply it by the next tax bracket. Some of you will find a shortcut. I'm confident that some of you will find a shortcut, but this works every time. Okay, 750. So I'll give you the answer to. I actually don't know the answer to the next one, so you're gonna have to wait till tomorrow. We'll just continue with this tomorrow. Thank you guys. Have a good Monday.